Good evening, everyone. Everybody who managed to rejoin this meeting after we were unceremoniously turfed off. I won't waste a lot of time by making introductions, just to let you know that we're meeting again in a month's time, or 5 weeks to be precise, to do a very exciting workshop with Akmal Chowdhury using pandas to do all kinds of wonderful data manipulations, machine learning and that kind of thing. Okay, over tonight, we're tying in with International, is it Women's Day or Women's Week?
International Women's, well, it's Women's Month, basically.
Right.
And International Women's Day is on Monday the 8th.
Thank you very much. So Jen has very kindly, and she's one of the chief organisers of the SPA conference. She's very kindly volunteered to tell us about the practical bits of inclusivity, inclusion, equity, and I've forgotten the last one.
Okay, just to kind of modify that a little bit. I think the talk I'm going to be giving tonight is more about the work that I do in the women in tech space. Well, obviously it's part of like the diversity, efforts that some people or some communities actually are making to get more women in tech. I'm not. Do we need to get more people in, or there's no waiting room, right? So people are just joining as they arrive. Okay, that's fine. Shall we wait a little bit to give people?
I'd also like to say, anybody who's got questions during the talk, please put them into the chat.
Yeah, we can have a Q&A at the end.
Find the time to accommodate you if possible.
Yeah, we'll do the Q&A at the end. But I think I'd like to give a little bit more time for people to join in case they're just seeing the email now from BCS. Shall we I don't know, maybe chat with people who are here first?
The time, I think it's time to begin your presentation. I'm going to mute everyone now, and then Ash, you can unmute yourself, yeah?
Okay.
Hello, Jen. It looks like you're currently on mute at the moment.
Right. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Right, I'll start again. So I don't know if you heard me earlier that originally this was going to be a talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but I think I'm gonna just focus on the in the women in tech work that I've been doing in the community. Obviously, part of the diversity effort of people and communities, in London and beyond. Given it is Women's History Month this month, and it's International Women's Day on Monday, I think it's probably a good idea to focus on this subject. Okay. Are you still seeing my presentation?
Yeah, we've got that in front.
Okay. Right. Yeah, as I said, I'm Jen Ashley. I'm on Twitter usually, and I'm Codering Heels on Twitter. If you're there, connect with me there. That's probably one of the platforms that I use the most compared to LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. I do a lot of work in the women tech space. I've been doing so since I retired. I retired early. I had a corporate career with Citigroup, and I decided to retire early. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. So what's keeping me busy now that I'm retired? I'm involved with a lot of organizations in the community, especially in the women, in tech community in London. And I'm also associated with a lot of other communities in other parts of the world where I give, talks and workshops. So I've got a degree in maths and applied maths, but didn't really use that degree for what it should be used for, because I went into basically coding, programming. Obviously, there's a bit of that there, but you don't really need those degrees to to be able to code. So I was with Citigroup, as I said. When I left, I was the VP of Business Development, which sits, in the tech team still, because really tech is the world that I like and enjoy. Then as I said, I retired early. The idea was to do what I want to do, enjoy life. But I'm not really the type of person who can just sit and do nothing. I need to be like focusing on something. So at the time, instead of just relaxing, I bought a small money transfer company, just like Western Union, but a very small version of it. And we were also running a travel agency, a newspaper publishing business, and we also had an e-commerce site. Um, and then after a few years of doing that, I said to myself, that's not really retiring. So I'd retire again. So I did. But then again, back to my mode of, oh, what should I do now? So at that time, during my second retirement, someone mentioned meetup.com to me. And I didn't even check it out because I thought it was a dating site. I said, I don't have, have time for that. Um, so I don't use any dating apps or any dating sites. So it's only when someone mentioned that there are tech events there that I checked it out, and found out, that there are a lot going on in London in terms of technology meetups. So I started attending some, and then eventually, and I always do this was eventually I ended up in leadership roles in some of them. These are some of the ones that I got involved with, and was either a lead or co-lead. Um, and this is the typical picture, that I've seen in most of the events, which you've seen as well. Um, so it's, typically a whole lot of men with just a few women attending. So this one was, I think, in at Facebook, where we held a React meetup, and there were like, this is not a full picture, but there's like 300 plus attendees, and there's like maybe 5 or 6 women. I have attended a a conference in San Francisco on Apple technologies, and I saw, some women there, which was great. But this was a picture I took when we went into the main hall. So it's a sea of men. So at that time I said to myself, maybe I should just focus on, like the women tech in tech space, because of what I've seen. And I got involved with Women Who Code back then, and I grew Women Who Code London in particular from 300 initially to around 6,000 members. I've handed over the leadership now to other people, because I was running it for 5 years, so it's time to kind of move on. And currently, I'm one of the ambassadors for Google Women Techmakers. Same type of work where we're trying to get, more women in tech, by basically. Oh, sorry, I'm also part of it. This is another women in tech networking group. And yeah, so basically, what we do is we hold a lot of workshops, talks, and all that, focusing on women in technology. And really, the inspiration for that is Ada Lovelace, who's the first programmer. Some people, would probably say no, she's not the first programmer, but you know what, we're claiming it. um, so as I said, the typical pictures like this of conferences, events, that we have been in the past, and I think it's time to change that. And really, the small work I'm doing is to contribute to that work, to kind of, move the needle a little bit. Obviously, I can't do much, and I'm not like a big company that has got a lot of budget to be able to do a lot more. If I have, a lot of supporters, then yeah, probably we will be able to do a lot more. So as I said, this is the typical picture. And there were even events like this where it's a women in business event, but you can see that all the panelists were men. And I think this one actually got canceled because there were a lot of complaints. And then this one, again, is women in maths, but it's all men. So that doesn't seem to be the right picture, right, for that type of event. And then anyway, as I said, we do a lot of events like this where we give a lot of workshops, free workshops to get more women into coding specifically. So this one we're doing something on the Apple Watch, and this one I think was at the Google where we were again building something for the Android watch. So we do a lot of hackathons. What else? Yeah, as I said, events I think this was at another International Women's Day a few years ago, which was hosted by Google, and there were like 250 plus women attending. So these are some of the practical things that I do. Is I actually teach as well when I have some spare time. So this I think was a class on just building a simple website, basically for women who have not really done anything like that before. So most of the, or actually all of the women who attended this one, have not built a website before, and for me, it's just really, and this is a simple workshop, and it's the idea really is not to really scare anyone, but to kind of get them introduced into coding. Okay, HTML, CSS. Some people would say it's not coding, but you know what? We'll just say this. So for me, it's very satisfying to see women, gaining confidence in themselves because they're able to build something that they have not built before. So we do a lot of workshops like this, and hopefully, when we're back in person, where we will be able to do a lot more of these in the future. Again, these are free because the last thing I want to see is any ticket cost to be a barrier for women to be able to access these workshops. Some of the things that we're doing. So aside from those workshops, I also established a Women in Tech conference, and it's called Techno Day. We're actually holding one on Monday, the 8th. Obviously, it's a virtual one. And I started this conference back in 2017, and it's held twice a year. Around March, around International Women's Day, and around October, when it's Ada Lovelace Day, which happens, I think, the second Tuesday of October. Just gonna probably show you this video. I hope it plays. We'll see. Just to give an idea of what it's about. Hopefully, okay. We'll see. I think my connection is bad, so we'll see how it goes. So last March, we had the very first Techno Day, a brand new event that was focused on women in technology.
This is actually what NASA do. Meetings on Mars.
You want to write code to learn how to solve a problem.
She never ever fails because she believes in what she's offering the client.
If you're a woman initiating your startup or currently thinking about it, this is a great opportunity for you to learn, network, and get great tips from the women-led startups who are going to be there.
I'm a broadcast journalist.
My profession is marketing.
My background is teaching.
I'm a developer, recruitment director.
I'm Italian, and in Italy there's nothing like this.
I went for the HTML CSS workshop. Amazing. I did one of the beginning workshops, the Ruby one. It was really good.
The free workshops and the talks were all fantastic, very inspirational.
Specifically, hearing from lots of really empowered women that have gone out and have done these kinds of things, that it's possible.
There's going to be a lot of workshops, and you might even have the opportunity to find your first co-founder or your first developer.
It was great. I didn't expect the room to be packed and people standing in the back, and it was full.
If you're a student, it's a great time for you to connect with the amazing companies that are going to be present that day.
It's been a really, really amazing day. I think I want to start to code now.
Totally insightful, and I feel really confident this is something we can do.
This event is totally free to attend. All you need to do is go to the website, register, and we'll see you at Techno Day on October 10th. Okay. I'm gonna go back to the slides. Okay. Can you still see my slides? I hope so. So I started that in London, and then expanded it to Asia. So we did one in Taipei, April 20 of 2019. We obviously didn't do any last year because of yeah, lockdowns and all that. And this year I decided that we'll do it again, obviously virtually. And instead of just having women attendees, there's opportunity to expand it. So we're opening registration to everyone. So the ticket is free. It's always been free since I started it. Because as I said earlier, I didn't really want the cost to be a barrier for women to access the talks and workshops. So we do in person. Normally we have like 40 plus hands-on workshops that happen. So you can imagine the cost, of running an event like that is a lot because we have to hire. For example, the last one we did in person, we had 1,800 plus attendees, and I had to hire a space in Excel London, which had, I believe, there were like 17 rooms. So we had two plenary rooms plus 15 rooms for the workshops, that were happening that day. So that's like my requirement for an in-person event. And luckily, so far we've managed to cover any costs through sponsorship, because we're not charging for tickets. So that's the only way we can really cover, expenses that has to do with the conference. Um, and so these are some of the workshops that we covered before. This is just a small subset because every year we change it, and introduce more new workshops that we haven't done before. But so this is just a small subset of what we have offered in the past. And the idea really is to upskill women, that day with like 3-hour workshops. And there's like 40 plus of them normally. I also created a Women Tech Scholarship, and the idea is to, get really women who are new to coding, to at least get them to like a junior developer level. Obviously, like one 12-week, coding bootcamp would not really get them there in the true sense of the word, but at least they got started, and hopefully are able to find other workshops that they can join, to get more knowledge in whatever track they joined before. So we started with the Swift track initially back in, I can remember, I think it was 2018 when we first started this. And so let me just show you this one. So again, the workshops, are free. We're dependent on companies to host our weekly, boot camps. And let me just show you if this internet works better. So almost there. So this one was, I think, our very first boot camp. Can't remember how many participated, but they went through a 12-week program and this was on iOS app development. And it was hosted by Net-a-Porter at that time. And this lady on the, like, in the corner, where is she? So this lady in blue, she joined us, and after going through the boot camp, she and I met, at another event, and she was saying to me that, this like boot camp really helped her, not necessarily in terms of learning how to code, but basically she was saying that she gained confidence and actually went for interviews with some companies, and not necessarily on iOS either. But she was saying, yeah, she gained some, sort of courage to do that, and eventually she was, I believe, hired by Capgemini for a role, and I'm pretty sure she's still there. So that, those really are the results that, that I want to see from this projects that, that we've been working on. So hopefully we'll be able to continue that when we are back, in person, events wise. So as I said, why am I doing this? Like, I'm retired. I could just be traveling. Okay, I used to travel a lot, but I could just be traveling, enjoying life, shopping, whatever. But I just want to be able to contribute, and turn that dial, as I said, because you've seen in the photos, the pictures that I've shown earlier. There really is something wrong in terms of the ratio, and we definitely need to do something about it. Um, from personal experiences, it's easy to be a critic. It's a great challenge to be a leader. Like, I do a lot of these things, but sometimes you actually get people like trying to pull you down rather than actually helping you out. Some seems to be doing the crab mentality thing, which is really not, not very nice. When we should all be focusing on trying to do something to address, like the issues with regards to the lack, or the very small number of women in technology. I always kind of go by this terms in what we're doing. There has to be some honesty. Like, we need to, yeah, like, don't do these things just for, I don't know, like, what do you call this, just to get some nice points or whatever, and then for recognition and all that. I don't think that should be the driver. Empathy should, you need to understand really the community that you're trying to do things for. And you have to be resilient. As I said, you can get some, you can go through some bad experiences as well from people from the community, actually. When all the while you've been trying to do something, positive for the community. But anyway, and also be realistic, because this is not an easy path, for anyone to take, as I said earlier. So oops, sorry, going through that. Yeah, being realistic, I think you also need to recognize, what you're capable of and what you can contribute, because I'm, as I said, I'm like a single person. I'm not a corporation. I can only do so much, but hopefully with the support from companies, we will be able to do a lot more in the future. Funds, so yeah, although we've been supported by companies in the past, I also, have experienced that I actually dip into my own pocket just to just to make sure that the event happens. Luckily, as I said, I retired. There were some funds there, and then I had run some companies, so I am okay in terms of like being able to support myself, and there's some extra that I can put into some of these. But at the end of the day, I think what I like to see really is companies supporting efforts like this. Not just this one, but there are a lot of efforts out there that's ongoing right now, so that I can just concentrate on like giving my time, and effort and all that, and not having to to actually spend my own money to do it. Yeah, so self-care, I make a point of not really sacrificing in my health, and well, I did sacrifice a bit of wealth and personal relationships when I do this, because obviously I have to look after myself, or anyone doing this type of work, type of community work. You should really make sure that you're also looking after yourself, and not just looking out for the community that you're trying to serve. I'm gonna end this talk with this video, and then after this we can have a Q&A, maybe a short Q&A, because we started very late. So and I do need to get back to some work for the conference on Monday. But I do hope that you can attend the conference. You can go to Technoday. That's TECHKNOW day.com. So technoday.com to register. The tickets are free, and it's gonna span several time zones as well, so you can join from anywhere and any time zone. Right, let me just play this one. Hopefully it plays quicker.
its user base. It reflects basically all of humanity.
There's no doubt in my mind that technology jobs are critical to every part of the economy, every part of the way we live, the way we work.
If we are somehow subtly or systemically excluding women, we are really cutting down on the size of the workforce.
Computer science is changing our whole world. Unfortunately, it's a very undiverse field. It's actually quite segregated. This is both a gender as well as an ethnicity issue. It's when the idea of the nerd genius came to the fore, and that's exactly when women started declining in their representation.
We imagine someone sort of sitting at a keyboard typing all day. We don't realize how much design and creativity goes into making software.
You don't have to be antisocial. You don't have to want to not sleep. You don't have to want to spend all of your time with the computer. You don't have to be male.
I think people are sometimes surprised when I tell them I work in computer science, just because it is a male-dominated industry.
As someone who studied rocket science, I can tell you that coding is not rocket science.
Writing software is just a tool to actually go build something cool that you want to build.
To be able to just build a product from the ground up, to make something exist where it didn't exist before, has been really exciting.
There's like so many like programs and websites now where you can just like teach yourself.
It was actually a really important thing for us as a company to establish having women on the team. The greater the empathy you have with the people that are trying to use the product, the better the product is.
I absolutely think that women can be just as great as men at programming. And the great thing is I can look the way I do, I can wear lipstick and write just as good code as you. And people need to be comfortable with that.
At conferences, there's been sexually explicit comments made towards speakers, towards attendants. It's gross. It's despicable.
We're not seen as part of the boys club.
There's this assumption there, like, that I brought the coffee.
People would assume I was a recruiter or talk down to me. I can't think of a single software product that would only be used by men. So it's hard to imagine that it would be appropriate to have any team that was only men or only women for that matter.
Important mantra is you are not your user.
Unfortunately, the first round of airbags killed a lot of women and children. And it turns out that the airbags were developed for the average specs of the engineer on the team. And those engineers happen to all be white men.
You have to be impatient. You have to say, this has to happen now. We have to do what we can now. Whatever it takes to move the number now, we have to do that now.
Okay. So moving on. Yeah, as I said, we're trying to kind of change the picture. There is, a lot of evidence out there that there is a business case for diversity. It does, affect the bottom line in a positive way if you have a more diverse and inclusive team. And if we're not going to do this now, when are we going to do it? We obviously kind of change the past, but we can improve in the future, and we just need to keep moving forward. And women can do it, but more importantly, I think we can do it with with the help of allies, because there are a lot more of you out there who would be able to to help us out. One thing, and I was in a conversation with someone yesterday, and we were saying that, for example, we're seeing a lot of changes, like conversations on Twitter where some women are saying that, thanks to my male colleague or soon to be colleague who told me what he's getting paid for this same role that I'm getting. So I'm at least I know I'm paid the same rate. So little things like that, I think helps a lot. So I'm hoping that a lot of you allies out there doing something, even a little thing, to like really change the situation for women, especially for women in tech, because we're mostly in tech, as far as I know from the audience of this events. So thanks a lot. And yeah, it's a quick presentation, but hopefully that helped a little bit show what things are being done, in the community for women in tech. And this is just me. This is just my work. There are a lot more things ongoing out there. So do check that out. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Jen. You may notice that in the chat channel, there's regular discussion already broken out.
Oh,
So if you
okay.
can tackle some of those questions, we'd be really grateful.
Let me see. More workforce, even so women in the military. So what are two you could do to attract more talented female engineers to apply? Okay, so the first question for me was, what are the two things, one or two things we can do to attract more talented female engineers to apply? I think one of the things is, and I know a lot of people are already doing this, that they change the way they word the job description. Things like, get rid of like rock star, or like ninjas, and all that kind of messaging. And I know there is a website where you can put in your job description, and it will actually tell you what needs to be changed so that it's sort of neutral. Also, maybe like do some things where you remove, say, the gender of the applicant, then even the name of the applicant, for example, so that you're eliminating a lot of biases, because there have been studies where even just the name, and let's okay, for a moment, let's forget about women, even like applicants who have got like Western sounding names or non-Western sounding names, there is a bias there as well. So yeah, so practical things like that you can do. Next one, thanks for that, great inspiration, doing a fantastic job despite the scarcity of women. I try. As a career changer who is teaching myself to code HTML, CSS, I'm just reading it. I find this oh, okay, yep, thank you, thanks for that. So another one from Pineapple. There are wonderful females with excellent experience, knowledge, and skill set in tech, which can be found as a coding block. Yeah. So yeah, as I said, there are a lot of efforts out there, especially for women of color, which is something that we should definitely be focusing more on as well. Yep. Yeah, definitely. And there are a lot of efforts like that in the community. So check those out, see what you can support. So Amos Change is just thanking Pineapple, Stephen Wilkinson. I don't work for a tech company. I work as a webmaster developer for a district council. And in the time I've been there, nearly 20 years, wow, that's a long time. Every single one of the ICT managers there have been women. Okay, that's good. Split in male and things generally. Oh, okay. So this is like an exception, right? This experience from Stephen. This good news that is happening, but it's not happening, I think, in a lot more places. So it would be good if if companies, organizations can actually copy what's happening there where you're working. Yeah. So the public sector often doesn't reflect the more general situation in the UK. Yeah. Exactly. Okay, so there's a link there to codingblackfemales.com from Pineapple. So check that out. Daniel's just thanking me for the talk. Thank you. Do you think it would work if either me or my partner brought my 30? Oh yeah, that definitely. Yeah, in some of the events that we've run, yeah, some parents actually did bring some of their like daughters, and it's good because at least they get to see some role models at those events, and that's very important that we have a lot more role models to inspire the young women of today to hopefully pursue a career in STEM, not necessarily just technology, but a career in STEM. Yeah, definitely. So McAlney, I'm a female computer science trainee teacher, and we consistently see the ratio of girls to boys being low, opting for the yep in lower. Do you have any other? Do you have any advice on how to encourage girls into the subject to give them a good? I think okay. So one of the things that I usually and I didn't mention this on my talk is that there's been a lot of instances where parents and teachers alike actually discourage girls from taking up like the more STEM focused subjects. So I think really is just making sure that if you see this happening, that more opportunities are being given to boys, that you try and address that and make sure that girls do have access to them, because if they're not even like being exposed to those and they're being excluded, then yeah, you're not going to be able to like get more girls into STEM. um Dinner time. They just saying dinner time. Yes, it is. So yeah, I think that's all the questions we have right now, and as I said, hopefully that's been helpful. You can reach out to me on Twitter, Coder Niels, if you've got any more questions. And thanks, Emo, for organizing this.
Well, thank you for volunteering. I just wanted to say, if people wish to unmute the microphone and talk, that's okay, perfectly all right. I've got one issue that I'd like to raise, and it harks back to some research that I read about, which said that particularly teenage girls are very, they're very keen not to fail, not to be seen to fail. And this idea that, you can show yourself up or not be perfect at something tends to bother girls much more than boys, and therefore they're less likely to want to have a go at a subject that seems like it might be difficult. Do you find that that's true?
Yeah, I think it would be true even for, I mean, not just talking about teenage girls, right? Women, like adult women, they can actually be experiencing the same thing, because they just feel that they can't like keep up with with boys, with men, if there's like an event, say a hackathon or something. So I think it's important, as you can see from most of the events that I've been organizing, it's important that we focus on women as attendees. I mean, there can be like workshop leads there that are non-women, and we allow that actually, because I'd like allies to be part of the conversation. But in terms of participants, I always make sure that it's all women, just so we can eliminate that sort of fear or consciousness that, okay, I won't be able to keep up. And it's honestly, I don't know if you've been to one, but it's honestly a very different environment when it's just all women in the room, aside from the instructors and all that, who can be men. But yeah, it's a different type of a vibe. I guess it's more relaxed.
Okay. Any further questions? Andy, you've got your microphone unmuted.
I have. Evening all. Hi, Jen. No questions really. Thanks very much for that. It was a really useful chat. One observation I've got, I work with Emo actually.
Okay.
And our company is sort of global. They're headquartered in Switzerland, but they've now got offices around the world and all that. And I've recently joined a kind of a diversity and inclusion working group. Okay. Kind of a bunch of volunteers trying to sort stuff out. And what's interesting, actually, we're finding that in the UK, it's a really kind of, it's a hot topic at the moment, and it's like we need to address this quickly because it's likely to affect bottom line. HR finding that there's good talent coming along. They want to know what our public diversity statement is, blah, blah, blah. Whereas there's a lot less urgency, let's say, in Europe, bizarrely. Just an observation. So the Swiss, if you look at the Swiss workforce, it's very kind of white-centric, a lot of the stock images that we have in our image portfolio, it's all white men doing tech and all that. And there's a lot less kind of impetus there to try and address that. In the UK, it's really picking up now. And I get the impression it's the same in Asia. We've started doing these talks now with our colleagues, how to write inclusive language, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of the locations are beginning to kind of say, oh, that's interesting, can you show us? But I'm just, it's just curious, how different countries are responding differently. Do you find that?
I haven't really focused on like the country differences, to be honest, but yeah, I must say that the UK definitely, is like more aware of the problem now, and there are a
Mm.
lot of efforts, being done. But I wouldn't, because I haven't really looked at other, countries and other
Mm.
regions. I can't say that they're not doing anything, but I think globally there is obviously that consciousness now, that there is a problem. So at least there's that acknowledgement, right? So that's the
Yeah.
first thing to solving a problem,
Mm.
knowing that there's a problem. Um, but yeah, no, it's been very interesting. It's actually I'd say that it's a very uncomfortable subject for a lot of people, and I'm not
Yeah.
just saying for men, but even for women. Some of them don't believe in what they're doing, like we're doing this thing for women alone, and there some women will question that as well.
Mm.
So it's not just men who gets uncomfortable with the subject, what I found is, as you keep on talking about it, people get to get educated. I think education is the key. You get educated about it, and yeah, it makes it less uncomfortable for them to be part of it, or to even talk about it.
Yeah.
And Zulke, by the way, is one of the sponsors for Monday's Techno Day conference. So thanks, Zulke.
Cool.
I
Cool.
think that's one of part of your you folks' effort to support more diverse and inclusive events like that.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It really does seem to be topic du jour. As I say, a really hot topic at the moment.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's
yeah.
just I encourage that people talk more about it. And I hope it's not just like a temporary thing that we talk about and then it fizzles out, because there's a long, we've been in this situation for a long time, right? So
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
kind of like move that dial, know that it will take like a very long, and it's probably not even our lifetimes, to be honest. Where we'll see that, yeah, there is a better ratio. Is it 50-50? I don't know. Who knows? I'm not
Mm.
gonna put it, but where we are right now, where it's like what, 27%, 26%, which is actually a better number now, to be honest with you. It was like
Mm.
14 something a few years ago. It's still not the right ratio.
Mm. I mean, exactly. The first, literally yesterday, we had our first big presentation about gender inclusive language, and one of the points I was making was, look, if you think about it, we've been around for thousands of years, right? And all of our language constructs are pretty much based around this binary view of gender, male, female, blah, blah. And then suddenly society changes like that. We've now got a problem here because our ancient language system is struggling to adapt, and it's going to take a little while to unpick all that.
Yeah, it will definitely, it will take a while. I mean, even
It's even worse for Germans, actually.
I just want to.
Yes.
So Pineapple just posted, excellent point. People need to become more comfortable with being uncomfortable and dealing with diversity of race and gender, because if it does not get solved, it could prove huge negative implications. Yeah, definitely, I agree with that.
Mm.
So yeah, definitely. For example, right, in terms of like gender, is her, him, but now we have to understand, accept that there are other pronouns, right, that we
Mm-hmm.
need to use, and even I sometimes get I get it wrong, even though I understand, yes, that there are things there that need to change in terms of how we address people, especially if they've already made it known, but sometimes I even like forget. uh because the person looks female or male to me, I will still use the same, her,
Yeah,
him,
yeah,
she,
yeah.
she things. So it will take a while, and so, education is the key. uh we do, if it's reinforced, a lot of times I think people get there in the end.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though in the beginning they have no idea, or they can't like just deal with it, they can't accept it. But yeah, I have seen people change just because they've been exposed to a lot of conversation and information about diversity, equity, inclusion. So it can work, but it will take
Certainly.
a long time.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, even my experience now, like I said, I've volunteered to get involved in this stuff, and I've learned a hell of a lot in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
And it's almost like step one, you just have to accept that we do carry these unconscious biases. And as soon as that happens, as soon as you've established that in your head, then you start thinking differently.
Yeah.
And, you know, literally, as soon as you set people on that path, even if it just takes a little nanosecond before you open your mouth, you know, and it's like, oh, you know, and you just start seeing things differently and just thinking, and it's just compassion, really, you know.
Yeah,
it's quite an interesting journey, actually.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Personally, I used to say guys, you know, when I'm referring to a group, whether it's just a group of men or a group of men and women. But then I tried and changed it to folks, and I've been using it for a while, so I'm so used to it now, and it's just like natural now.
Yeah,
Where,
exactly.
when I started, I was really uncomfortable with it because it's not what I used to use. And I think people who hear it as well feel uncomfortable because I'm using that language. But anyway, I decided that's what I'm going to use. So you know what, deal with it. Get used to it, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Folks is fine, isn't it? You can say
Folks is fine, exactly. Yeah.
Formal.
But it's just to recognize that, you know, if you do say hi guys, you know, it might be a trivial thing, but you are quite clearly excluding people in the room now by saying that, you know. It's just that tiny bit of recognition. Think about it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's not difficult to change it. You know, as I said, it will be uncomfortable in the beginning, but you know what? Deal with it, and yeah, you'll get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? So, okay, if not, I do hope, some of you will attend Monday's conference. It will cover different time zones. So I don't know where you folks are, but do check out technoday.com and sign up for a free ticket. Advertising.
Thanks very much,
All
Jen.
right.
I've really enjoyed
No
tonight's
worries.
talk, and
Thank you. I enjoyed it as well.
despite the little hiatus at the beginning, which was
Yeah, that's right. That's technology. We just deal with issues like that. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Jen. Cheers.
So when you come back next, Jen, let's talk about inclusivity with regard to minority races, people with disablements, and so forth.
Yeah, that we got. There are a lot. Yeah, there are a lot of like different topics, right, that we can talk about on diversity, inclusivity, and equity. Definitely. All right. I think I'm gonna leave now. I need to go back to some work.
Yes, indeed. This
for
recording will
Monday's
be available
conference.
on the BCS SPA website within a few hours. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.